In fact, I never signed up to be a celebrity coach. Even when people call me that now, I'm like, oh God, here we go.
Well, you have a long list of A-list clients: Anne Hathaway, Emily Blunt, Cindy Crawford.
We had one of the most well-known politicians on the planet. He was showing up to my club, and my GM was like, I'm gonna go open the door for him. I go, don't do that. Looks at me, she goes, why? I go, are you opening the door for everyone? Let him open his own door. Let him come in. But you don't need to hold the door for this guy. We need to treat everyone the same. The ones who build this culture and community, they're the ones who go in there and they want it. Even when I was hiring coaches in the past, what do you want to be? I want people that want to be in fitness. Now, if you don't want to be a trainer your whole life, I have no problem with that. When I was hiring someone, I wanted to make sure that they were passionate about fitness and that it just wasn't a job. I never trained primarily for this. I trained for this. Everything else is like a byproduct. It's like when you were talking about with business. Are you going to be obsessed with the money piece of it, or are you going to be obsessed with going through the process? I'm obsessed with the process.
Welcome to the Fitness CEO Podcast.
Hey friends, cannot wait to introduce you to today's guest, who's a new friend of mine, Don Saladino, who we met back in 2023. He was introduced to a dear friend of mine, Jason Redman, who helps me run the Legacy Tribe coaching program with my business partner, Bedros Cooling. And Don has basically climbed the ladder of fitness success. When you look back, and many fitness trainers want to become the celebrity trainer of the stars, and Don has done this. Ryan Reynolds, Ryan Gosling, Jennifer Aniston, and a list of other 15 more A-list celebrities. He has climbed the peak of fitness, of coaching, of training, and today we're gonna unpack so much gold in terms of mindset, in terms of strength, and really coaching you to be a better version of yourself. So cannot wait to introduce you to Don. Hey friends, welcome back to another amazing episode of the Fitness CEO Podcast, a show for high performers that teach you how to lead so you can 10x your income, your impact, and your legacy. I'm your fitness CEO and your host, Bryce Henson, and we have an awesome episode today. My man, Don Saladino.
Yes.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you, man. Took a while to get here, but we're here and ready to go. So
that's it. We are in Las Vegas, Nevada, off our normal podcast studio, but you're a New York guy, yeah?
I'm a New York guy, and very familiar with Las Vegas, though, right? Like I said earlier, met my wife here close to 20 years ago. We've been married 17 years now. So This is like my second home, and anytime I have an opportunity to come in here, it makes me feel good. I'm always smiling when I get off the plane. So it's always a good thing.
Well, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So first question, in the case that our audience is not familiar with the legend personal trainer that you've become and you've really developed into, what do you do? And then really the high-level backstory, how did you get into what you do?
Yeah, so I'm always going to be a coach. You know, I started coaching back in 1999. I worked at a big box gym, but I always had this entrepreneurial bug in me. Come from a catering hall background. My family they were caterers, sweet 16s, bar mitzvahs, weddings. So at a very young age, I had a broom in my hand, and I was waitering and serving people and understanding customer service. So fast forwarding, went off to play college baseball. When that my plans to play beyond that didn't work out, I had this bug to get into coaching. And I got a job at a big box gym, stayed there for about a year, and then opened my own one-on-one training practice, and then wanted to open my own gym. Because back then, it's 2003, 2004, there was really not a lot of, social media was like nothing.
Nothing, yeah.
Right, and marketing was all in magazines, and the ultimate for a coach was to own a gym. So I actually went out and I raised capital, and I opened my first golf fitness training facility.
How'd you raise the capital?
Oh God, angels, clients, family.
Just being scrappy.
So what how to.
And the reason I asked this is this show's for entrepreneurs that need to find problems and solutions, and you're a really creative guy. So
to simplify it was by adding value, right? So what I would do is I never worried about the session rate. When I was going in and training someone, I always tried to over-deliver. So if they were training with me for 1 hour, I was, messaging them or calling them or whatever it was, just to always follow up, and I was always on them. And I really, I wanted to change their outlook on me, where it's like, oh, Don the trainer, or Don's a luxury to work with. I was like, no, I wanted to be a necessity. So I think when you start adding that type of value and you're really not concerned with the money piece, and trust me, I had to make money, but it was like, oh, session rate, okay, whatever, like get it to me on Monday, or, whatever you want to do. I was very kind of lenient there, and I made it so much about them that they all wanted to deliver. I never really made it about the money. It was still something to this day. I'll even turn to I don't work with a lot of people one-on-one now, but I'll even turn to some of my big clients. I'm like, just take care of me at the end of the year. Like it's, because I run a digital business.
Yeah.
Like I run a global business. So like I don't, we always worry about money, but I'm saying I'm worrying about a session rate from an A-list celebrity is not going to make or break me. So I'd rather just say, listen, I'm here to help. I'm here to add value. We don't know what this relationship's going to look like this year, how much you're traveling, whatever. I'm not going to nickel and dime you for, just send me a check at the end of the year.
I love that so much. And like in my experience of working with entrepreneurs, especially in our industry, the ones who make it big are the ones who focus on the passion, the client first, and the profit's a byproduct.
Especially the coaching piece, like the money is always going to wear off. You could charge $100 an hour and bump your rate to 125 and you're all excited. 6 months later, it's going to wear off. 250, 500. I've charged more higher prices than any coach on the planet. I've charged $1,200 an hour. Like it's just
$1,200 an hour.
Yeah, but it's not. Now people be like, that's ridiculous. I'm like, well, supply and demand.
Totally.
Like it's like if you wanted my time, now I don't even have a rate because I won't take on one-on-ones. I work with a couple people that are like family. I will do anything for them. I will travel anywhere with them. I don't care about the money piece. They've added so much value to my life and they've helped me out so much that I just want to be the one to deliver. I want them to turn around and say, oh my God, this is one of the most important people in my life, my trainer. So that's something, those are rules I've always lived by. So the money piece wears off. I mean, I feel fulfilled by delivering a great product, doing good by other people, and changing the industry.
So before you jump into like how you launched your gym, because I interjected there, one of the things I want to unpack, you're like, I always had this like interest in coaching, which is a great, I guess, profession and calling, if you will. Like, where did that come from?
You know what? I think I just felt significant from doing it. Like I had a bad stuttering problem. I think I might have told you the story. You heard it once. I had a bad stuttering problem and a bad hearing problem at a young age. I think I was trying to find the thing I was good at a young age. That started at second grade. That's when my fitness journey started. I got into baseball and I found out I was good at baseball and I went off to play college baseball. But throughout all that, my focus started going from baseball to like, everyone was asking me questions at my university. Everyone's looking
around
at me
fitness and
around
like your
fitness,
work,
around nutrition. They're like, even I played Division I baseball. My coach was like, work out on your own. Like, I don't care what you do. Like, just stay away from everyone. It's just like, I was a menace, right? And I still have a great relationship with my college coach. But it involved, I think coaching became something that was phenomenal for me because I was able to change someone's physiology in that 1 hour, the first few minutes, just to see them walk in. That was my gift. It's like I saw someone walking in, I'd be like, oh boy. They didn't even have to open their mouth. I could just see by their posture what I was dealing with. And I really had a great way in just being able to adapt and adjust to that person. So I think that was one of the things that allowed me to be successful. Yeah, am I great at what I do? Do I know training? Of course. Let's not get that twisted. But you could be the best trainer on the planet if you're annoying the hell out of your client, or you don't know how to adjust to a person coming in who's a little bit volatile or a little bit temperamental. You're going to have a serious issue. If you start making it about yourself, you're going to have a serious issue. And it's a line I always use. Like, I'm expendable, man. I am. Like, the second I want to stop doing this, I'm going to get replaced. Someone else is going to step into the spotlight.
Yes.
Someone's going to fill my shoes.
Yes.
And they'll probably forget about me. That's just the reality of it. And I take that mindset, and that has allowed me in 25 years to run scared and to turn around and to not take for granted the position I'm in.
How do you battle that economy? Because I love it, dude. You're a freaking confident guy. You show up. You've had so much success. And the same token, I'm so impressed with you. And we initially connected through our mutual friend, Jay Redmond.
Yeah.
And one of the first things I noticed about you is your humble approach. Like your humility, even in the midst of all the success. I was immediately attracted to that.
Thanks.
Where do you think that comes from, and how do you balance that dichotomy?
Oh, man. It was probably started from those issues I had as a young kid. It's like, I think when you go through something like that, you come home at a young age and you say to yourself, oh my God, like, am I going to ever find something I'm good at? You're in second grade, hugging your mom and you're all upset over it. And that's scarring. I mean, that took me a long time for me to truly be able to say, all right, like I'm good, but I would never go back and change that. That was like probably one of the most influential periods of my life. That was like, that branded me, that put a stamp on my arm or on my chest that I'm just like, do not remove that. That'll totally screw things up.
When do you think you had awareness around that? Because
that's what that did.
Because going through it probably was not a fun experience. But
no,
then
it wasn't.
You had to look back.
I don't think I was aware of it through high school, and I don't think I was really aware of it through college. I think through college I had a good physique, and I was strong, and I was athletic, and I was good to people, but I don't think I was aware how important that period of time was. Probably within the last 10 years. Now I'm 46. I'll probably go as far to say, probably my early 30s. I turned around, I was like, oh man, that was a good thing. So I don't tell the story. I don't want a sob story. Like people have way worse. That's big deal. You had issues as a kid. You got over it. Like fine. Like you move on. But I'm actually happy that happened. So I think part of my humility came from that. I think part of my humility came from the fact that we really had this blue collar work mentality growing up. And when I'm working in a catering hall and you're serving people, and the type of serving that we did wasn't like, oh, I'm getting tipped. Like, when you go to a wedding and you have the waiters walk around, they're not tipping. Like, so I would turn around and I'd have to handle like 3 round tables of like 12 people. So there's 36 people there, and they're all different personalities, and I'd work a morning party, I'd work an evening party. So all in all, you're 70 plus people I'm having to deal with, plus everyone else on the floor, plus people in other rooms, plus your bosses, plus my dad was there. He was my boss. Like it was just, and they were really hard on me.
High expectations. People are hungry. Like there's a lot of moving parts there. That's so invaluable.
Excuse my language, but don't fuck around. Like lead by example. You're like, I don't care. I could tell you stories of my grandfather having me put a bag on and jump into a sewer, and with one of those snakes to unclog the toilet. Or I didn't have a plunger one day, and I saw him. It sounds disgusting, but I saw him reach in and unclogged it with his hands. And I looked at him. I went, "Oh God!" And he goes, "Don't you ever let me see you say that."
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay, like it's just when you have those type of people leading you,
it fires me up, man.
Oh no, it fires me up. And like my grandfather, like he sounded tough, like one of the most influential people in my life. So I think to come from that blue collar mentality where it's like, no, you ain't going home early, you're staying late. Oh, and you're here early, and to see that type. He was working at a fruit stand before high school. Like how soft are we?
Totally.
He had to wake up at 3 a.m. to go work at the fruit stand with his dad, because his dad worked at a fruit stand. They were immigrants. He had to go to school all day. Half the time he's falling asleep at school, and the teacher knows it, so she's letting him sleep on the table. And then he's got to go work all night as a young kid. Like, I love my son. He was a hard worker, but he's not doing that. Like everyone's a little bit more cushioned.
So soft, man.
Yeah,
so soft.
It is. I think so. When you see that, you hear those stories, I think it really hits you home. And again, I've seen people get replaced. I've seen people at a really high level, suddenly they're irrelevant, and it scares the shit out of me to this day.
So that's where you have the sense of humility.
Yeah.
And the flip side, and I can probably take a few guesses here. Where have you derived your confidence? Because you have that dichotomy about you, which is such an attractive quality that I want to glean from you, but I really want to teach our audience. If you want to get in the fitness business, if you want to get in the people business, you have to have both confidence and humility to attract people.
Yeah, but I think I'm confident with this, right? Like if you get into a conversation with me on politics, I'm not going to be so confident, right? So I think we become really confident at things I think we're really comfortable with talking about. And like this just happens to be a topic: business, fitness, health, recovery, family. Like these are some pretty big, important topics to me. And I really feel like I'm pretty good at, discussing these things. You want to get into a conversation with me about, just other categories that I'm just not as familiar in. Yeah, I'm gonna be like, probably see me in the corner, like, okay, like, but I'll definitely like, I love listening, and I'll definitely sit there and I'll ask questions, but I will not sit there and I will not try and be an authority. I guess
there's value in that.
Yeah.
All right, so Don, I kind of interjected there your kind of storytelling. I want to get to the point of where you're at today and the celebrity client list and all the value that you've been able to provide. So continue on.
With the celebrity, so I didn't expect. I never signed up to be a celebrity coach. Even when people call me that now, I'm like, oh God, here we go. Like I feel
like that's what you're known for, man. Yeah, like watching your content.
You got to embrace it, right? And I do, but the reality is I was a strength and conditioning coach who was incredibly passionate about that, incredibly passionate about nutrition. Got on a bunch of magazine covers, so understood that performance physique world, and we got into that golf piece because of my brother. He was a very competitive golfer. And, we really had to pivot our business at one point because back in 2007, we're doing all these corporate events. 2006, we opened 2005. So we're doing all these events for like Goldman Sachs, Bear Stearns, Lehman Brothers, all these, Bear and Lehman aren't around anymore. And out of nowhere, corporate spending went away. And we just, it was just more like, all right, oh my God, we have to pivot. And our strong point was this training piece, even though golf was something we were focusing on. And Hugh Jackman, I ran into Hugh Jackman at the gym, and he saw me working out, and he was like, I want to train with you. And I'm like,
He walks up to you and connects.
yeah, he did. Actually, at the time, and I saw him recently because I was with Ryan Reynolds in London. They were shooting Deadpool 3. And Hugh's like, I'm one of the nicest guys that you're ever going to meet. But I don't train Hugh anymore, but I've been working with Ryan for 15 years.
Yeah.
He's like my brother. I mean, one of the most important people in my life. So, Hugh was an intricate part of getting me started. But I remember back then there was no social media. This was,
and by the way, real quick, just to
17 years ago.
interject how impressive this is. Like Hugh Jackman, from my perspective, not only is he known to be an actor, he's known to be a freaking ripped actor.
Yeah,
and the fact that you train
see him
him
now.
is unbelievable.
I mean, you have to see him now. He's working with a coach from Texas.
Yeah.
She's fantastic. I've seen the programming that she's putting him through. She's fantastic. She knows her stuff. He's in great hands. And he's in his mid-50s. He looks unbelievable. So she's doing a great job with him. But Hugh came up to me and asked me about coaching, and he was working with a buddy of mine, and I was almost a little at the time weirded out by it because I didn't know the relationship with them. And I went to my buddy. I said, "What's going on?" He goes, "No, you idiot." He's like, "You don't understand." My buddy Rico, he was like, "I'm moving. Like I didn't tell you yet. I'm moving. I'm leaving. I got to part Hugh. Hugh needs a new coach. He wants to work with you." I was like, "Oh, all right." So I started working with Hugh, and I remember at that time there was no social media, but he tried to do something for I think it was Men's Vogue. He's like, "There's an article." He's like, I want to give you some props." And I was like, "Don't worry about it." And he was like, "What are you talking about? It's not your job to do that, man. It's like, just let's focus on you. Don't fucking worry about me." Excuse my language, but don't worry about me and my putting me on this platform. Mm-hmm. We need you love the privacy here. I didn't realize
that was your response to him.
That was my response to him, but I didn't realize then that he was doing me a favor, but also it was a great way to showcase the work that he was doing. But I more thought of it as him trying to do me a favor, and I didn't want him to because I was really concerned with overstepping that boundary and me crossing that line. Now I know I was an idiot. I should have done it, right?
Well, I mean, dude,
I wouldn't have done anything because you know what? And the reason why I wouldn't have done it would have gave you some notoriety.
Totally.
But I ended up getting the notoriety anyway. I didn't really have anything to sell at the point but physical membership. So if you're in the area, everyone knew about our club in the area, so they were coming in. And we had every celebrity on the planet walking. Every celebrity on the planet has walked in there. Dwayne Johnson has would train in my clubs, and go on.
This is in New York, yeah.
In New York City, yeah. And it started there, and then at that point, he opened the floodgates, and then I started getting calls every single week. It was like the biggest name in Hollywood. "Don, what? Scarlett Johansson." "Oh, what's going on? Nice to hear from you. What's up? Want to come see you? Great, come on down." And I think what happened is that initially there was no they came in. It was like a normal person, and they smelled it on me.
But why is that the case? Because
I just didn't want to a great story. We had one of the most well-known politicians on the planet. I can't give his name, but he was showing up to my club, and my GM was like, I'm going to go open the door for him. I go, "Don't do that." And she's like, looks at me. She goes, "Why?" I go, "Are you opening the door for everyone? Let him open his own door. Let him come in. He's got his securities. He can come in and handle it. You don't need to hold the door for this guy. We need to treat everyone the same."
Yeah.
We had no camera policy in there. There was no autographs. I remember one time asking for a picture. I brought her to my office with my manager. I said, "You're never going to do that again." I said, "We don't do that here." And I think that went around. And I think because I gave them that type of comfort.
Protection, too.
Then it just opened the floodgates for me. And that's really what gave me one of the things that gave me a big name. A celebrity trainer thing. It was it became a joke because it was just really about people coming to me that wanted good training and they wanted a good product. It just happened to be that they were very well-known people, athletes and celebrities. So now the tabloids want to turn around. They want to coin me as a celebrity coach because it's clickbait, and that's what people are going to open, whatever. And it's okay, go with it. No problem.
But taking a step back and the message that I want to share with my audience, because I see this running my fitness franchise, I believe and not only believe from a data perspective, the most successful franchise partners, business owners, coaches in our brand aren't chasing the dollars. They actually chase the value, the result, their client. They focus completely on their client experience, and the profit is a byproduct of that. And that's Don, what I'm hearing from you. Is that fair to say?
That's it. The ones who build this culture and community, they're the ones who go in there and they want it. They just want to be even when I was hiring coaches in the past, what do you want to be? Like, what industry do you want to be in? I want to be in the fitness industry. Or is it like, no, I'm doing this to fill in for, I got castings, I got modeling. I'm like, I'm not interested in that. I want people that want to be in fitness. Now, if you don't want to be a trainer your whole life, I have no problem with that. If you want to get into PT, or if you want to get into fitness business, or if you want to get into fitness market, I don't care. But like, when I was hiring someone, I wanted to make sure that they were passionate about fitness, and that it just wasn't a job. This was almost like, it sounds corny, but it was almost like a calling.
Oh, it doesn't sound calling.
Yeah.
Corny at all, man. It's
Yeah.
like kindred spirits. I'm
Yeah.
picking up what you're laying down. Big picture, kind of high level. What's the difference of training one of your, list of A-list celebrities compared to training like the average day person?
There are some people say there aren't. I think there are and there aren't. Right? I think with the celebrity angle, their schedules become much more volatile when it comes down to travel. That's not saying that the Wall Street, worker is not going to be in Singapore one day and China another day. But I have found that the celebrity's schedule becomes a little tricky, right? Like, so let's start with this. Let's start comparing the celebrity with the athlete. I feel like the celebrity is more difficult because one, they're not an athlete. Two, they don't have a set schedule.
Right.
I'll use Ryan Reynolds as an example. He could be in Dubai shooting a movie for 2 months in a different time zone than his family, away from his wife, away from his kids, away from his businesses. And the shoot could start at 7 and something can go wrong with the camera, or someone's, the director's mom could get sick, and something gets put on pause or something, and the entire schedule gets flipped. I'll see schedules go from where they're shooting during the day, and then out of nowhere, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, they have to shoot overnight. So when you see that type of volatility in a schedule, Tom Brady never had to do that for playing for New England. Like, he knew he was playing, everything was regimented. So I think, to be fair, now, I don't want to turn around and say that there aren't people in Wall Street that are going through. I've seen some crazy schedules. And I've seen guys who go to China and they're not even booking hotel rooms because they're just sleeping on the plane there and back. Like, they're a quick turnaround. So that to me is, to give them credit. But I think also prepping for roles is always changing. And I think when you're working with an actor, it's not like Brady, where, using him as an example, he has to be in shape, he has to be limber, he has to be resilient. All these actors need these certain things, but
very specific things.
Aesthetically, they have to change. So it's clearly like someone's getting ready for a role in January, February, March, and they have to be around this dimension, they have to be around this body weight, they have to have this look.
And that going in. This is the prototype that I need.
Oh yeah, no, we sit and I'm like, okay, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, that's like the first thing, like, what do we need to create? And they'll be like, well, I gotta get, I'm like, well, I'll never forget. I think it was Dave Harbour for Hellboy. He had to wear a prosthetic suit.
Okay.
So Dave came into me and like, he had a prosthetic suit on, so what do I have to do? Dave was all about resiliency because his back was so bad that I had to get my team of medicals involved. On day one, he couldn't pick up a 24-kilogram kettlebell. And then on week number 8 or 9, I'm starting to forget now, he pulled 400 pounds off the floor. So just to show the amount of progress that he had, and we had to keep, as we were getting him into shape, we had to make sure he didn't shrink so much in that suit, because that's a problem, right? If he's got this suit on and out of nowhere, if it's not fitting him a certain way, they're going to pull, right? There's an issue. Liev Schreiber getting ready for a role where he's like, I have to look like a Russian shot putter. And I'm like, what the hell does that look like? And you're like on the computer and you're like looking it up and you're like, okay, that's interesting. Or Liev played Chuck Wepner, which was the kind of who Rocky Balboa was based off of. And I was like, oh, Liev, we have to get you in worse shape. Like, literally, like, he looked worse than what Liev looked. So now how do you keep someone moving and feeling good, but you got to fatten them up a little bit? So there's always like a different, it's not all like, oh, he's got to look like Brad Pitt in Fight Club, which is like the most common thing.
Yes, you think of, yeah.
Yeah, everyone's like, well, you're getting in shape of Brad Pitt in Fight Club, or Ryan Reynolds in Blade, or whatever it was. It's like, you look, thinking about these guys, and they had sick physiques in these roles, but it is interesting to figure out that puzzle, and then you got to create it, and then you have a period of time to create it. And also, I'm going to add in, I'm known in the industry for doing it a certain way. Like, I've never worked with any TRT company. I've never worked with any type of illegal substances. It's what I'm known for. And I'm not the guy to even ask. People would bring stuff up to me and I'm like, I just don't know. I can't talk about performance enhancing substances. Dr. Gabrielle Lyon will admit it to you. Like she'll you can look at my blood work. Like I'm very public about it, but I have been for 25 years. And for 25 years, has my body really looked that much different? No. The people I've worked with, Ryan's body's always been around a certain shape, right? Like sure, we've gotten a little bit of better rolls here and there, but it's not like he's gone and put on 50 or 60 pounds. So the people that I work with, they always stay about 2 to 3 weeks out. It's a term that I use. And like, what does that mean? It's like 2 to 3 weeks ready from like a magazine shoot. Like have your pizza, have some alcohol if you want, have your ice cream, have some fun. But I want to make sure in that 2 to 3 week period, if we have to get you ready for something, we don't have to recreate the wheel here. You're not turning to me being like, you just gained 30 pounds. Like we have a problem. You got to be ready for this in a month now, right? So it's just, it's the route I've gone. And I got to be honest, I've had a lot of people in Hollywood show up to my office and they're like, what do I have to take? And this and that. I'm like, I'm not the guy for that.
Disappointed.
Yeah, I
like disappointed at like the answer that you're giving them.
Because now we're like living in this period of time where it's becoming a little bit of the Wild West. Like all these functional medicine doctors are so quick to, prescribe something. That in my opinion, maybe there's a small point or there's a small window where you might need something like that. I'm sure you would, but I also believe that people are using this as a Band-Aid and they could be changing things in their life like sleep, and they could be changing things in their life like stress, or they could be changing their nutrition and the amount of times that they're going out, and they could be making these changes and they don't want to, they just want to start taking tea, right? And they're thinking, well, you're 40 years old, man, you're getting on this now. Like what's going to happen when you're 55? Like that's a long time to be on something, whether you're cycling on or off. You don't know what's going to happen. And I have that outlook on this because I buried my best friend in 2010, who was 10 years older than me and was abusing it. So when I saw him, so he was 10 years older than me, so I was a young guy watching him go through this. And he literally, he had a terrible, I found him dead in his bed after 3 days. Oh, man, and it was awful. When you see someone go through that, and people are like, "Oh, you can't die from." Yes, you can. Like I saw this guy. Yeah. His testosterone levels. I had him because he didn't have a family. His family passed, so I was pretty much co-signed with him on all of his leases. So I had an autopsy done on his body because I had to clean his body at City Hall because he had no family. Otherwise, they were going to put him in Plotter's Field, which is where all the unknowns go. So I had to go to court for 2 weeks. I had to claim this guy's body. I had to go identify him 2 weeks later in the morgue, which isn't an easy thing to do. Oh man! And his T levels were at $3,000. They were north of $3,000. Ooh. Mine right now are I just got to test it. I'm like 930. I
was gonna say like 800.
And I'm good. Yeah. North of $3,000.
Yeah.
So it's something I know I kind of went off on a tangent there, but this is all part of the Hollywood world that people need to know and understand. They're very quick to turn around and say, "Oh, they all take stuff." That's not fair. They don't all take stuff. Some of them take stuff, and some of them don't. I'm not at liberty of discussing who I know takes or who doesn't take, but like there are people that are very, to each his own.
So Don, to kind of put a bow on that, because I want to take the conversation not just on your celebrity training status, but what would you say 30,000 foot view from a business perspective or life perspective you learned about training very high profile celebrity people?
I mean, you just get better with people. You just get better with situations. You get more confident. Like you can walk into a room with anyone. You're in a room with some big names. I was in a room with some very big names recently, and it was just like, okay, like. It's like me and you. It's just that you just get very, very comfortable in these situations. You get very comfortable with talking to people. And you realize that they all have the same issues. They all have the same problems. They all have a relative that's doing X, Y, or Z, or they all have this one who's sick, or it's the same stuff. It doesn't matter.
Just people.
They're just people. So I think that's, I learned that early on, that they're same problems, insecurities. A lot of them I know a few of them that are constantly playing different people, and then when you meet them in person, they're almost a little awkward. Like they're almost like, So I've met some actors too that when you meet them in person, they're a little awkward. It's like, all right, well, you're so confident in this role, but you don't realize that's not who they are. Maybe this is who they are. Totally. So that it gets. I don't want to say it's cool to see that, but it's interesting. It's interesting, but they're just people.
Yeah, I appreciate that insight. Next up, I want to talk about discipline. You've obviously gotten to the point for a reason, and there's many qualities, but when I look at you, Don, I think discipline, just your physique, the way you show up. I've researched, and I don't know if this is true or not, but you haven't missed a workout since '96.
Yeah, and when people ask it, they're like, "Oh, you haven't taken a day off?" I'm like, no, but it's part of the program.
Yeah.
So like when I went to Whistler over Christmas, I programmed in 6 days off. And I programmed more in. I think I programmed like the full week I was there, and I said, one scenario is I'll start back Monday at home. Other scenarios, if I feel the need to move, I'll start moving on that Saturday before I leave, or whatever the date was, 2 days before. And I ended up doing that, but I took 5 or 6 days off. So yeah, no, even today, like off the plane, went to go get my rental car. There was a 2-hour line, and I just called up. I said, cancel my rental car. I'm going to just use Uber. Because I realized that like, oh, I wouldn't be able to make the gym and make you. So I'm like, I'll just Uber it there. And my father-in-law's gonna pick me up. I'm gonna go grab dinner with him, and then I'll pop around with Uber and whatever. It's like, so no, there's no, it's like brushing your teeth. Like I haven't never missed a day brushing my teeth. It's not really any different for me. Now, what intensity is that workout? Some workouts may just be cardio, or it might be mobility, but there's always like, I know my days off. And if I had my entire day booked today and I knew I was on the plane at 7:30, I would have been up at 3 a.m. It doesn't matter. If I just
You create a plan, you execute that plan.
Yeah.
So where does that come from? If someone's listening to this, be like, dude, Don, that is so impressive. I want to be disciplined like you. Where did that come from? And maybe what's a strategy or two?
It's got to be trained. I think you could be born with that to an extent. But there was just things, and I think I kind of was in a way. I remember when I was a young kid running, I would go on these long runs, and I remember I would hit this run called Snake Hill Road, and it was like brutal. It was just some mornings I was just hung over. You know, you're out partying as a young kid, and I remember literally like projectile vomiting as I'm running.
Still going.
But the whole time being like, don't walk, like you got to run, like getting an awful cramp, and literally just keep running. Like, and people, that's stupid. Like, no, it's not stupid. Like I never trained primarily for this. Like I trained for this. Everything else is like a byproduct. Dude, it's like when you were talking about with business. It's like, well, what are you going to be obsessed with the money piece of it, or are you going to be obsessed with like going through the process? I'm obsessed with the process. Like,
where did that come from?
I think a little bit of it was in me, but I think it was also trained. I think it was also the fact that it was the one thing in my life I was able to control.
Your fitness.
Yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, like we can't completely control our health, but you got to admit that not all the time, most of the time, like what you put into it's what you're going to get out of it, right? You want to eat pizza every night, you're going to feel like junk.
Totally.
If you turn around, you get your sleep, you drink your water, you eat your protein, you train, you're going to feel a lot better about yourself. So I got really attracted to that. I was like, wow, like there's so many things in life, like even in baseball, you can hit balls, all day, every day, practice. You can go for 3. Like you can hit 3 rockets to the outfield. One guy's going to lay out a bad bounce. You're 0 for 3. Like it's just, with this, I realized I can control my outcome. And that to me became really attractive.
It's inspiring.
I love it.
It's empowering.
No, it is. I'm like, wow, this is on me.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say there are people that don't, yes, tragedies. And a friend of mine was just diagnosed with cancer. My mom was just diagnosed with cancer. There are things that are just out of, they can be in our control to an extent, right? You can take care of yourself. But Sean Perrine, the ex-editor-in-chief of Muscle and Fitness, the first time, I've been on the cover of Muscle and Fitness 3 times. The first time I got on the cover, Sean got me on that cover. It was his last cover. He died of lung cancer. Never smoked a day in his life. Was pescatarian. Never drank a sip of alcohol.
Really?
Never trained. That was it. Trained and ate right. Trained and ate right. And he got dealt a bad hand at 50 years old.
Yeah.
So like sometimes you get dealt a shitty hand, but most of the time we can control a lot of what we want our outcome to be. So I think that's where it was developed. And I think it becomes like a drug. I think the more you do it and you realize that, wow, I can completely change how I'm feeling. I left freaking the rental car place today, got an Uber, I'm on a call. I was hot. I literally walked in the gym and I just started moving. I spent probably an hour 15. Next thing you know, as I'm halfway through it, I ordered a DoorDash meal. This place, Protein House, sent like a great meal to me. Next thing you know, I'm eating a meal. I came here, I showered, I'm sitting with you. I'm in a great place.
Yeah.
So like it's pretty impressive how you can just instantaneously change your physiology by doing something for 30 to 60 minutes. Like think about that type of power that we all have. Why wouldn't you want to continue to focus on that? So what I urge people to do is like focus on being exceptional at the process and just take your time. If you're someone that has always wanted to want it, or you just can't stay consistent, like I always say, like take one thing a month. Like if you're absolutely terrible at this and you have no motivation, you can't do it, like focus on water month 1. Make mistakes for the first few weeks, but by the end of the month, nail your water. Month 2, start adding more steps in. Month 3, get your protein up. Month 4, start being more active, get to the gym. Like, I'm just making this stuff up. Month 5, add more vegetables. Like, take your time. Because, like, I just named 5 major things. 5 major things that if every unhealthy person on the planet started incorporating those 5 things in and they got consistent with it, like, we're going to be living in a better place.
Yes.
And it took you 5 months. Big deal.
But that's a step-ladder approach. Like, let's focus on one thing first, nail that,
Yes.
and then move on.
And people have spent the last 30 or 40 New Years being unsuccessful. What is it, Quitter's Days on, like, January 12th or 13th? Like,
I was going to say 15th, but
yeah,
regardless, 2 weeks in.
Yeah, but 2 weeks in,
Yeah.
they quit because they're like, I'm not going to take a day off. And I'm going to eat perfectly. And I ate pizza 365 days last year, so I'm going to give it up indefinitely. I'm like, don't do that. Like, have it once a week.
Yeah.
Just
build that in.
Just improve it.
Yeah.
So that's been my thought process. And as you get better and better and better, and you feel better and better and better, like you just want more and more. I'm always searching. Like, I want to get better. Like, I believe I'm going to be 47 in April. Like, I'm still hitting lifts that I was hitting when in my 20s, and I'm still running the way I was running when I'm 20. My body comp is probably even a little bit better. Like, I have to think differently, right? I can't just throw all this meaningless stuff like, oh, let's just go run 10 miles right now for a goof. Like, oh, well, I got legs tomorrow. You know, like, let's think about this a little bit. Is this going to be like, be prepared, right? But that's what changes as you get older. I think you got to plan a little bit better, and you got to look at recovery as like a workout day, and you got to be smart.
All right, next up, adversity. Yes. No one gets out of this life without going through major adversity, major challenges, and certainly a guy of your stature who's gained a lot of success also means you went through a lot of adversity. Ooh. So from your perspective, can you think of 1 or 2 big boulders, big things that you got through, and what were the learning lessons that you can provide guidance to our audience?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'll go through some easy ones first, like having Con Ed shut their power down on my club when I was in there with full membership in there. Con Ed's your power company. Okay. So we had power shut down. Amex pulled our cards. Couldn't get a credit card for probably 3-4 years. Had to go in and do a prepaid card. So interesting when you learn this when you lose your credit card a long time ago. I had to go back in and then like put money into an account, and they would only limit me. So if they're like, we won't take more than $2,000. So like $2,000, and they give you like a debit card, and you burn it down, and you could start building credit back up. Now my credit's awesome. Like I'm no problem. But those were things that like shit. Like when you go through stuff like that sucks. I had to come up with $1 million to keep my club open. So I took prepaids in.
You had to come up with $1 million. $1
million, yeah.
Let's unpack that story for a second. What'd you do?
We went personal when we signed our 15-year lease.
Yep.
Which don't ever do. We went personal, which PG is a personal guarantee. So if we folded our lease early, the landlord could have came after our homes.
Which in fairness, though, at least in my experience, a lot of times you actually do have to make...
A lot of times, when you're 26, 27, getting into a business of that size, you're taking risk.
Yeah.
You are, and you got.
So you were 26 at this time.
I was 26 when I signed my lease. 2005. Do the math. When I was born in 77, so 87, 97, 2007. Yeah, I was 27 when I signed the lease. But I raised $5 million for that one club. Did my second club a lot less expensive.
Where did that, and granted, there's probably some strong tactical guidance you can give, but where did that confidence, where that belief, 27 years old?
I don't know if it was confidence or stupidity. Like, I think it was a little bit of both. I mean, listen, I've always been like a kind of a risk taker. Like, I'll be honest. Like, I'm a bit of a gunslinger. I'm like, I've always believed in myself, and I'm like, oh, we want to go for it. Like, I'm very thoughtful in my approach to things. But when people are like worried about, pulling the trigger, I'm like, fuck it, let's just do it.
Let's go.
Let's go. I've buried too many people to know that you don't know when your time's going to be up. So those little things, that $1 million though, that was tough because what I did was I then went to my membership and I was like, hey, you spent $110,000 here last year. Like, it was an obscene amount of money that these people were spending. We were offering them a great product with the golf and with the entertaining. And give me 100. You'll get the same product, but I need this to burn down. I need this to be able to keep the club open. They were like, sure. So we went to like 10 to 15 people.
Gave them a 10% discount, raised that money. And
then I burned it down over like 18 months. That's how much training I ended up doing. It was bananas. It was bananas.
When you say burn it down, meaning you're the one servicing.
For every session that we had like 10 coaches in there, but we would have to pay the coaches out so that would cost us. But me, you don't have to pay me out.
There's no overhead there.
But I was doing a lot of brand deals. So I was working with like Revolution Golf. I partnered up with Garden of Life. I helped co-create their sport line. We brought a whey protein to a plant-based company, a plant-strong company. So I had other forms of revenue coming in. So I was able to put a pause on my salary. Actually, when we sold our apartment after Sandy, that was around the time when we really started recovering. So I actually know, so it was Hurricane Sandy, I think it was 2014.
We were talking about.
So right then, I remember a year after Sandy, so a year later, I was able to sell my apartment. And we got a good nut for it because it was down in ground zero. So we took that money and we paid off all of our debt, me and my wife. So we were like, boom, done. And we were like, fist bumping. She's like, I'll get a job. I'm like, done. Let's go. Like we just teamed up. And my wife's a machine. She was just like, we're paying off our debt. She came and she's like, we got this. And we lost our house. Think about that. We lost our apartment. We had to move into my little guest house.
Yeah.
And we were able to live rent free. Some of the best years some of our best years. We got a dog. We had our 2 little kids in there. We were lighting fires every night. Small place.
Scrapping.
But it was us.
Like
we were
you
scrapping
guys,
and we made it happen. So we lived off of the money from the sale. And then these brand deals started coming in. And then that was like around the time we started rebuilding. And she's my business partner now, and we run a really solid 7-figure, hopefully higher soon business, and it's doing great, and we're in a really great place. So
love it.
Yep.
All right, you are certainly a fitness dude. One of the things that I just love about your passion, because I love fitness, fitness.
Yeah.
I gravitate to the business side more, but when I think of you, when I look at you, Don, you just radiate passion, conviction. I'm a fit guy. You freaking fire me to take it to the next level.
I'm getting amped up. Yeah, I love it. Thank you.
So looking at that framework, what would you say are a life lesson or a business lesson or two you've actually learned from the weight room, you've learned from your own fitness that you can apply or that you've applied to your life, your business?
Yeah, I think failing to succeed, right? It's like the sets never get easy. Like some people will ask me, like, does this get easier? I'm like, no. And they're just like, what do you mean? Like, should this get easier? I'm like, it never gets easier. Like, think about it. Every set that you're doing, is it easier than it was 10 years ago? Like, no, it's not. Like, you push yourself. Mm-hmm. And I think in business, there's ways you can approach business, right? Like you can start delegating, and you can start, you become a monster in business, and I know friends of mine that are way more successful than most people that I even know, and they're like, they delegate and they know how to manage their time, but they got to that point and they don't want to grind anymore, and they've earned that, right? But I think you got to ask yourself, like, what type of person are you? Like we're still at a point where I feel like we like to build and we like to create and we like to do these things. So I think even with our bodies, right? I'm not going into the weight room like, oh, I'm here to maintain. Like, I don't know what that. I can't.
Oh, I
stand
hate
it.
that.
I hate that.
Crushes me.
Like maintain.
Like get after it, my friend. Let's go.
Even in business right now, like I don't want to maintain. Like I want, like I want
either
more.
growing or dying.
I want to grow. I want to grow. I want to figure out ways to do things better. It's like think about it. I jumped on a plane for 24 hours to come out and do 3 podcasts. Why? Because it's more marketing, it's more connections, it's more me being around people I want to connect with and be around. And I see my in-laws, and I'm back on a plane. I'm going to land by midnight tomorrow night, and I'm going to wake up Friday, and
get after
it's going to be all behind me. Yeah. And it's like, I'm going to be happy I did that. So I think sometimes people are like, well, it costs you money, and it's a first class ticket, it's a place to stay, and it's food. It's like, yes, don't worry about it. Like just like create, get yourself involved in there. Always try and like develop and build. And even with training, like, there hasn't been a year that goes by that I haven't sat and spoke with someone that I'm like, oh wow, I want to learn. Like I sat with Matt Wenning. He's a world-class power lifter. Him and I became really friendly. We hosted an event together with my friend Gunnar Peterson. Mm-hmm. And Matt, was really big into the conjugate method, which was a West Side barbell. It wasn't something that West Side created, but they really kind of coined it more in the US. And Matt, I think he totaled like 2,800 pounds in 3 lifts, like one of the strongest human beings. So I wanted to start diving into some of his powerlifting stuff and learning from him a little bit. So I'm like, Matt, write me a program. He's like, no problem. So I'm doing, at that time I was doing Matt's program and picked up some great things from it, like the Wenning warm up. Like, oh wow, that's interesting. It's 25 years later, 30 years later, and I'm still picking up things like, wow, it's really interesting. It's a reminder, like high rep work early on, people were always so against it. But
yeah.
I love it for strengthening tendons and ligaments and getting your mind connected to the movement and there's so many other things in my training that I would add in, or we showed Matt and we were like kicking around ideas. But when you get around meetings or sessions with people like that, you're like, oh my God, I'm excited to go write a new program, or I'm excited to go try this, or I'm excited to go apply this to, someone that I'm working with. And I think that, like, as hungry as I am in fitness, I'm as hungry in business.
I love that. One thing that you just like sparked an idea or thought, an observation, your figured out mentality. And it came from like your creativity in terms of like, being a student of the game, learning how the body works,
Right.
and then being creative in terms of creating programs.
Right.
Now, for our franchise system, we already have the program built.
Sure.
Okay, so that's solid and that's a
Yep.
huge value.
Yep.
However, you need to be able to figure things out. We have an incredible, awesome business plan.
Sure.
But guess what? Life happens. COVID lockdowns happen. There's
Oh, yeah.
things that are unpredictable, right?
Yeah.
So what's your approach to that? What's your approach to the creativity and the figured out mentality?
Well, figured out. I mean, I've never figured it out. I mean, I still feel like I haven't figured it out. Like I'm still, because it's always changing. Like think about it. Like in business, like your business is always changing, right? It's
Always.
Always. I was talking to a buddy of mine who, 15, 20 years ago was like a massive name in the fitness business, and now he's not where he was. And saying to myself, like, you didn't evolve, you didn't adapt. You're still thinking it was, back in 1990 or 1995 or whatever the year was. I'm trying to be vague so no one picks up on it. But, part of his problem was that he didn't want to recognize that what he's doing needs to change.
Yeah.
And I think that's a tragedy.
Yeah.
So I think having that ability to be malleable and really adjust was something I became really good at, because the second I signed my lease in 2005, 2007 hit, all those financial institutions went to crap. We went through blackouts. We went through Hurricane Sandy. I was in the city during 9/11. I mean, I was working in the city. I sat there watching. I was in the Trade Center a week earlier.
Oh wow!
And I sat there from my building watching literally, the towers fall, and we were at a south view, staring right at it. Like, holy shit!
Yeah.
So like you go through so much stuff in the city, and you see so many things, and you just get up, and you're just like, I'm here. So I think that's part of it. Like, do I want someone to have, am I telling everyone out there, like, well, you have to have your credit card shut down? No, I hope that doesn't happen to you. Like, do I want you to have to go borrow money? No, but when you do these things, one of two things can happen. You can piss and cry about it and say it's the worst thing, or you can figure out a way to turn around and say like, wow, I'm learning a lot from this. Because I got an education that like someone getting their master's degree at Harvard will never experience. Like going through the things I went through for 15 to 20 years, in those facilities and in that city, and seeing how people, and you're never going to be able to go learn that unless you immerse yourself in it. So I think you just got to change your mindset a bit. Most people are looking at these situations and like kind of crying over it a little bit, and being a little soft.
Like victim mentality, man. Like I'm going to go on a freaking little tangent here. I feel like the last few years, it's just this victim mentality pours me, and that's not the calling. Like get your ass up. Look at your hands, and like these hands are things that are going to push you forward and make the opportunity, make success.
Listen, COVID sucked.
Oh,
I'm not gonna say, and I couldn't. I mean, listen, what you went through and with your brick and mortar facilities, I got a bit lucky because my 15-year lease, I had 2 clubs. One of them I just sold off already because I didn't want to be in the group model anymore, and the other one I was going to try and expand.
Oh wow!
So 495, I was bringing in a new partner to expand. My 15-year lease expired May 31st, 2020. Think about the math on that. Oh,
wow. I mean, that's...
So, like, there, out of all the shit I went through for 15 years...
15-year lease expired in
May 31st of 2020. And I went to the landlord December of 19, and he was a little rough. And I remember sending him an offer, and he just wrote back, like, we reject this offer. And I was a little bitter. So I kind of, like, said, all right, I'm not responding to him. And in February, they're emailing me, like, what do you want to do about the lease? I'm not responding. So I think September we were about to re-sign the lease, and our digital business was here, and there was so much risk, unneeded risk to take. It was like, why am I going to go back to this when we have this? And it was a business decision. So in the beginning, people were like, "Are you all right?" I'm like, "I'm great." Like I built a new facility. It was everything I wanted. It wasn't a membership facility. It was a facility for me. I could fit 20 trainers in there right now. It's our filming hub. It's unreal. You'll come out there when you're in New York and we'll train.
Yeah.
But I think you got to find a way to turn lemons into lemonade. And during that period, we were all together. We were all we were not alone in that. Like the world was shut down, and there were some creative things I really did with lead magnets and giving away free product and not worrying about money, where people were like, trainers were panicking. They were like, how do I make money? I didn't say that. My wife and I said, how do we give everyone free? And that was what, like I collected 200,000 emails in 4 weeks. And that's a big number for any size business.
Oh, that's huge.
So for giving away free. So like every publication was like, would you give us an arm workout, an ab workout? I'm like, no, I'm going to give you 4 weeks, body weight, with video, periodized. And
we're going to stack the value 10x.
I'm gonna give you everything I could possibly give at that time. I didn't have a gym. My wife and I are ripping. I remember that Monday, March 16th. We're literally moving furniture out of the way.
March 16th. That's what it
Monday,
was.
March 16th.
Yeah.
That's when Cuomo said we had to shut at 8 p.m.
Yeah.
I'm running into the city. I'm carrying kettlebells out of there, but Mel's like, you can't use any equipment. No one has equipment. And I was like, oh my God, you're right. So we shot this like, whole body. We sat up all night, like the following night, shooting all this content, and we just gave it away for the next few months. And then we like hosted a challenge, and then we like gave that away. And then out of nowhere, we assembled this community, and then it just like every month was like 3xing, 4xing, 5xing. You're just seeing this monster build, and then suddenly you're like, this is awesome. Like this is fun. This is different. I did not expect to do this. And that's why like what frustrates me sometimes is, and I have to dive in. This is a business piece.
Please.
We always say you start at the finish, and your business plan, your 1-year plan, your 5-year plan, your 10-year plan, and you hear all this stuff. And I respect how people try to systematize this stuff. But if you turn to me back in 1999 when I went and worked at Equinox, and you said, hey, Don, in 2004, you're going to build this insane facility in your backyard, a training facility. And I was smart back then. I was like, wow, I could bring people. I could run a commercial place in Lloyd Harbor because you're not allowed to. You're like, no, you're not going to be training people there. I'd be like, well, how am I going to make money? Well, you're going to build this online community. Well, what's online? What do you mean? It's that thing with the Ethernet cable? Like my college, like in 98, 99, they gave me a computer and they had this thing called the internet, but I never used it. You had to plug a cable in. It was that ringing sound. And like, yeah, you're going to be hosting your Zoom calls. What's a Zoom? Like you're going to be able to do all this business. You're going to get in over close to 100 countries. How am I going to do that? Am I going to be traveling all the time? No, you're not going to travel that much. How am I going to get in that many countries? Well, you're going to do it through digital marketing. What's digital marketing? Like, you see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So like everything right now, all these terms that I'm using back then, they didn't exist. And what everyone's trying to do, it's like that morning routine. I respect the morning routine. It's fine. It's a little chaotic in my house earlier on, but they're trying to map everything out so perfectly, and I respect that. But you got to be malleable, man. You have to be willing to like, all right, there's an obstacle here, and there's another route this way, and make a right.
Yes.
Go.
Yes.
Let's fucking go. And,
yes.
And that's what people like. They start panicking.
Yes.
But that's not the plan. I'm like, we got to get from here to there. We can't go this way. We have to turn. But that's not what we do. We don't have someone that can do that. Well, we got to find someone that could do that. But we can't afford that. Well, we got to bring some money in then. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, how are we going to turn around? Like,
Don, this is the figure it out mentality that I'm referring to, but like, it's the creativity. It's the figure it out, brother.
It's the figure it out, man. But like, that's, even in fitness, someone comes to me and they're like, I can't lose weight. Okay. I've tried everything. Well, then give up. Well, why are you being that way? Because you said you tried everything. Do you really think you tried everything?
No.
Well, no. All right, so let's change the conversation right now.
Yep.
You just told me you're eating 95% perfect. Is it really 95%? Or is it maybe 60? Well, maybe you're right. So why don't we start being honest with ourselves a little bit?
30, actually.
Or how about this? Let's say you're eating beautifully. Maybe there's some digestive issues. Maybe there are things that we got to really do a deep dive in that's out of my scope, but I have a team of people that can go look at that. Well, it's going to cost money. Yeah, you're right, it is. So do you want to spend $1,000 or $2,000 and figure this out? Or are you going to sit here and be miserable for the next 2 years? Because that's going to be worth way more than $1,000 to $2,000.
Oh yeah.
Well, I can't afford it. We'll figure it out. Prioritize this. Don't take that vacation that you wanted to take in February. Go do this. Let's nail it. And then the next time you're on the beach, you feel the way you want to feel in a bathing suit. You know what I'm saying? People just prioritize things.
It's the mindset, brother. Friends, I hope you're hearing this. I'm fired up. You better be fired up too. It's the mindset, man.
I love it.
Love it. All right, I got a couple big topics before we transition to the bonus round, and I appreciate, man. This has been awesome. One thing that I just sensed from the very beginning, we met in 2023 on a coaching call you did for the Legacy Tribe coaching program that Jay Redmond, our mutual friend, Bedros Koulian run. So grateful for that. And one of the initial points that I just felt is your authenticity and your realness. Thanks. So I'm curious from your perspective, how do you think being vulnerable, being authentic, showing some chinks in your armor has helped you. And the reason I ask this is everyone has their own insecurities. Someone's listening this or watching this and having, some sort of insecurity in the back of their mind that they're afraid to showcase. For me, as an example, we talked offline, we're a recovering alcoholic.
Yeah.
For the longest time, I was actually afraid to share that. But when I did, I initially thought people were going to laugh and scold at me. What happened was just this liberating feeling. And I've actually been able to, number one, hold myself accountable, but I would like to think inspire other people.
Yeah.
So Don, from your perspective, like what's that relationship with authenticity and how has it helped, and maybe some recommendations for our audience?
Yeah, I just think of it as being honest. I'm like, I can't, even when we came in here earlier and we were talking about some things, like I got to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it for a pity party, and I'm not doing it to, air my laundry. You just start having a conversation with people sometimes, and it starts going a certain way. And if you give out a little bit too much information, then you give out a little bit too much information. Like, we can only do our best in life, man. I'm not going to tell you I handle every situation perfectly. Like, there are times where I get hot, or there are times I might get a little emotional, or I have this little game I play in my head where like I'll type an email and I'll put it in the draft box, and then like I make sure I don't send it, and like the next day I'll go back and I'll look at it and I'll be like, shit. I'm like, don't do that. Or like I'm notorious for actually picking up a phone and calling someone. I'm like, listen, I can't send this in an email because you need to hear my tone here, because I do not want to come off sounding like an asshole. Like, I know things that I'm really good at. I know things that, like, sometimes my mom the other day, I was on the phone with her. We were talking about something, and it was getting a little heated. I wasn't yelling at her, but like when I start talking, my volume starts elevating.
Oh, yeah.
And it sounds, she's like, I'm yelling at you. I'm like, Mom, you've known me for 46 years. I'm not yelling. I'm just passionate, and I'm just getting emotional. And it's like, I'm not yelling, like, but it just, it might, for most people, it might sound like that I am. So like, I know there's things that I have to work on. What are we doing here?
But how do you think it's been able, like, dude, you're just a very strong connector, like right off the gates. It's like right off the gates, like immediate felt a connection. How do you believe that's helped you in your connecting with people?
Yeah, I mean, I think I could just relate to people. I can relate to a lot of different people. I think that's something I'm pretty good at. I just think having conversations with people, I think I'm genuinely interested. Like, you were sitting to me earlier, and like I was talking, and I felt like I was like, all right, am I giving them too much information here? But you kept asking me questions, and it makes you, when someone asks questions, it makes you feel comfortable. Well, that was just a perfect example that an hour and a half ago, we were talking about something that was pretty emotional for both of us.
Yeah. And
it was pretty deep, and I was actually second guessing whether I was giving you too much stuff, because I was like, oh man, I don't want to, we're supposed to shoot a podcast here, man. Like, I don't want to like dump too, but we were going off in that area, and I just said, fuck it, let's go, man. Like, what's the worst thing that's gonna happen? He's gonna be like, wow, I just met this guy, and he's, we're talking about it. But sometimes you meet people and you connect with them, and you're just, and you gotta let it go. And if it's who you are, it's who you are. It's like dating. I always said, like people would come up to me, clients all the time, like, should I call them back? I'm like, yeah. Well, we just went out last night. I'm like, but you want to talk to him, or you want to talk to her? Like, just go, just be. Stop planning out. You're being fake. How am I being fake? Because you want to call this person now, and you're not. You're gonna give it 2 or 3 days because it's some bullshit rule.
Freaking call them.
Call them. Like, and guess what? If they don't like you because of it, they did you a favor. Like, my wife and I, we kind of met and we connected, and we went out and we were like, we partied, and I don't know, maybe I slept with her the first night or something. Maybe something, but it shouldn't be my mother, my kids. Like, it's like, what do I care? Like, there was no rules.
Yeah.
There were no rules. Like, you meet someone, you fall in love with someone, there's a connection. We were on a phone. There was no FaceTime. You know what we would do? You want to talk about cheesy?
Yeah.
We would literally rent the same movie. We'd put on a headset together. We'd say, ready, set, go, and we'd hit play. And I would be in the city laying on the couch, and she'd be in Vegas laying on the couch 3 hours back. And we'd watch the same movie together because there was no FaceTime. Like, these are things that we wanted to do together. We wanted to be together. And that was like, all right, fine. But like, if a woman couldn't handle the fact that that's how I wanted to be, like if Mel wasn't into it, I'm not gonna fake it. Like, that's who we were. That's what got us to where we are now with 2 beautiful kids, and we're happy. So I just think people gotta stop like trying to be so perfect, and when you're in an emotional state, like I do say, like, take a step back, think. Don't be so reactive, because I've done some stupid stuff and said things to people, and you regret that. I think that's when you got to take a deep breath and step back. But if you're happy, if you're in a good mood, if you want to tell someone you love them, like, do it, man. Like, what are they gonna look at you, say you're weird? Like, I can't tell you, my guy friends, I'm like, love you, man, love you. We're like,
let's go.
Like, it's awesome.
Well, dude, I love that because I mean, at the end of the day, from the fitness industry, for the longest time, I thought, okay, it's about the X's and O's. It's about the kinetic chain. It's about getting that person to peak shape, which it is. That is, but it's about the connection. What I've learned is the people that do well in this industry. It's a service-based industry. It's the people business. Even
they're connectors.
You're connectors.
Are you a deposit type person or are you a withdrawal type of person?
That's it, man.
And it's
you got to be a depositor.
I'm a deposit type person.
You have to be.
Like I just and you have to be. And I have people in my life that like you see they're always taking withdrawals, and it's like I'm going to be honest. Like again, it's a turnoff. It's not that I always want to take from them, but they're always coming. They're always wanting, and they're always wanting, and they're always wanting. And after a period of time, you're like, come on, man. Like, ask me how I'm doing.
Totally.
Like, try it. Like, jump on a call. Like, the second they call, I'm like, all right, 3, 2, 1. I was wondering if you kind of, there we go. But it's like, it starts becoming really predictable. And it's like, is that something you're born with? Like, I think a lot of us, you can develop it or you can be born with it. And also, like, this isn't jumping topics, but Arnold put out a book recently?
Yeah,
and
got through it.
Yeah, and I'm
be useful.
Right.
Yeah.
So everyone's saying be useful, and people are asking. And I love his guy, his writer Adam Bornstein.
Yeah.
Phenomenal guy. Giving him a shout out. Follow him, but he's someone that you should get on and you should speak to. But Adam's tremendous. But everyone's like going up to Arnold now, like, how do I be useful? And I'm like, I don't really understand that question. That's like asking, like, how do I be a good person? Like, how do I be useful? Like, add value. Like, how do you be useful? Like, what? Be useful to someone like you, Arnold, because you have a lot of money? Like, be useful to the person who's struggling to get across the street with the bag in their hand, who can't hold the doors, or unloading some packages and they're struggling. Like, just be useful in general to people. Be good.
Yes.
Add value. If you're going to work for someone, go break your ass. When I was sweeping floors at my catering hall, I wanted to be at the catering hall I worked at. I wanted to be the best sweeper. I remember being 12 years old, thinking this. Like, I was like, I want to sweep harder and faster than anyone here. I want to collect more garbage than anyone here. Like, it was like, but it's hysterical. Like, I wanted my father to walk in a room and see me hustling more than anyone else. Was I a hot dog, or did I want my father's approval? I don't know. Did I just want to show him I was working hard and I was making him proud? Maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
But I think those were the things that kind of put me off in a good place. But this whole being useful thing, it's just add value. Just be there for people. It shouldn't matter if they have a lot of money or if they don't have a lot of money. Like, it shouldn't matter that it's Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, it should be useful to the person on the street that's struggling to walk across, or the bum in the New York City subways that can't walk up the stairs with their carriage. Help them out. Help her out. Like, be a good, like, you will walk off in that moment feeling better about yourself. And I think that's when this all starts.
Oh, Don, mic drop, man. Appreciate that.
Get a headbutt in a second.
A lot of value there, my friend. All right, you've been so gracious. I'm going to transition.
I love this. This is great.
This is awesome.
I flew to Vegas for this.
Let's go.
Let's go.
All right, I want to transition the bonus round. So kind of short, choppy, but you've been in the business of coaching, many high-list celebrity trainers on becoming heroes or villains in their stories.
Sure.
From your perspective, who's your biggest hero in life? And the flip side, who's your biggest villain or enemy that you're trying to combat?
Hero in life is probably a culmination of like my parents and my grandfather, even my uncle right now. He's been battling terminal cancer. And the guy's an absolute, like, just machine. I mean, I think, 5-6 years ago, whatever it was, he cancer all through his body, and he shows up to my house and he's like, "Let's go, man. What do we got?" Like, he's like, "Donnie," I was like, "Well, how you feeling?" They have to inject chemo in my spine, and they have to give me these tattoos, one tattoo here and one tattoo here. So I asked the doc, "Could you tattoo fuck and you right here?" And he just starts laughing at me, but I'm dying because I'm like, most people would be in the corner.
Yeah.
And this guy's like,
defeated, right?
I'm not. Like, he went and had knee surgery because they were going to amputate his leg, and then next thing you know, he's like, "You know what? I'm going to have the surgery, even though I'm going in for all this chemo or radiation, and then because you know what, I need to be able to walk." Most people are going to put this aside because, like, it's just the knee, like, you can fix that. Like, no, I need to be able to walk and not feel like a cripple. Like, it was a mindset thing for him. So I think it's people like that, like I love. I'm devastated he's going through that, but he's like someone like him is like turned into my hero. So yeah, I think family. Oh God, it's gonna sound quiet. Really corny, man. I can't believe I'm even saying this, but my wife, man.
I love that.
She's a machine.
Mel, yeah?
Yeah, she's just like.
Shout out to you, Mel.
Shout out to Mel. She's brought in an element. Put aside the type of mom she is and the wife she is. She's incredible. But like what she's doing in our business right now, I'm like, I couldn't do this. Like I can't sit in front of a computer 16, 17 hours a day. But she looks at me and she's like, go, do it. Go to Vegas, go on 3 podcasts. I got the kids. Like, you follow what I'm saying? She knows the areas she's strong in. She knows the areas I'm strong in, and that's why we're a really good team. So I have some really good mentors also, some really successful people that have been with me for 15 to 20 years. One guy's a commodities guy, Dwight Anderson. I love him. Joel Horowitz, founder of Tommy Hilfiger.
Really?
Yeah, Ken Fox.
What do you think, if you looked at the commonalities of those mentors, what have they taught you?
They all taught me different things, but I think they all have this coolness to them where like you never really see them get rattled. Like they're just like, we're going to deal with it. Mm-hmm. It's going to be all right.
It's like quiet confidence.
It's like quiet confidence. Yeah. They're not like in like panic mode. The ones that are like super successful have this level of they don't have to show up in the Maybach. They'll show up in the Jeep, wearing shorts, and people won't know what they're doing. They're like, oh, is that one of your trainer friends? I'm like, yeah. Worth $7 billion, by the way, just in case you're curious. One of my trainer buddies. I won't say that to them, but I'll play along with them. Like, yeah, it's one of my trainer buddies. Yeah, it made more the last 10 minutes that I did all last year.
Your life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But like that to me, that like I look at that and I really admire that. I was watching something on the plane today. Warren Buffett driving his 5-year-old caddy, going to McDonald's. And I'm like, how do you not love it?
And from what I know,
his suits are like oversized on him.
And whatever the breakfast menu is, if the stock market's down, he'll go lower. Yeah. And if it's up, he's like, I feel a little wealthy today. Let's go.
He still has I guess he still owns his parents' house.
Yeah.
But it's like exactly the same. I'm like, Warren, send a cleaning person in there. Like, I think the dishes are still in the sink. I'm watching, I'm like, wow, he really left it the same. It's no joke. And you look at his house is beautiful. Listen, he's happy.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, who are we? Like,
oh, yeah.
If you're happy, you're happy. The guy's worth $100 billion. It's like, you could buy a new caddy. I'm sure you could buy Cadillac in general,
Yeah, I'll take the
whole company.
Man.
But,
good stuff.
I think I look at that I really admire. I look at people who kind of fly under the radar and I really like it.
What about the opposite? Who's your villain? Who's your enemy? Who's the opposition that you're trying to overcome?
Ooh, the villain.
Yeah.
Probably there's always demons within yourself.
Ooh.
Right? I wouldn't necessarily say it's one person. Now, you're going to have people who piss on you all the time. I mean, it happens. You'll have people that you think are, friendly or friends, and they might talk or they might say something. That's the one area I've matured the most probably in the last year. Is like, it would really burn me in the past, and now I'm just like, dude, just can't deal with this, man. Like, they said it. Are you gonna confront them? No, I'm not gonna confront them. I just don't have.
It's not worth it.
It's not even worth it. So, but I think the villain is some old tendencies that you go back to. That's still in there. The demons that are still in there.
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa, take it easy, buddy.
Totally.
Like, it's all right. You're a different person now. Like.
Totally.
Breathe, massage your shoulders a little bit, So I think that's sometimes the battle is there. Am I a very religious person? I'm at church 90% of the year. I go on Sundays, but I don't do that. I don't talk about it. I don't post about it. I do it because it was the way I was raised. It makes me feel good. The only time I'm not at mass is I got to do a better job on the road. The road's been really tough for me, but when I'm at home, I'm there every Sunday, either at 11:30 or 10 a.m. mass. But those are times for me to reflect. I don't care what your religion is. Mm-hmm. I don't care what your political views are. Mm-hmm. But I think we should have time to reflect. And I think it's important for us to have a belief. And I think it's important for us to be able to, it's a shame how we can't always voice those things, right? Because someone could turn around, whether you're Republican or Democrat, or great, that's who you are. Like, I'm totally fine with that. If you're Jewish, you're Catholic, you're Christian, you're Protestant, you're whatever. Like you are who you are. Like, I would love to see, all of us just be able to kind of embrace each other a little bit more. But I don't know if that ran off topic. I don't know why I thought of that, but it just kind of.
Good, man.
Sometimes we start talking, and I'm like, wait, I gotta go into this area.
All right, next up, man. Just being in your presence fires me up. You're clearly a driven guy.
Thank you.
What's the source of your drive? What's the source of your passion?
You know, it's funny. Sometimes people are like, it's my family, it's my kids. I want to be this way for my children. Like, no, it really is something that I love. But I also know that I lead by example, right? So if someone's coming to me and they're like, well, what do your kids eat? I'm like, well, they eat whatever they want, but, you know, they now make better choices because they see what dad's doing or they see what mom's doing. But I want my kids to have ice cream. They can have fast food when they want, but they choose not to. Like my son, daughter, they don't drink soda. My daughter's a pescatarian. I'm not a pescatarian. She decided to do that. It's just the example that, like, if you want to lead, like, if you want your kids to go in a certain direction, you got to lead by example. So
I want to drill into that, actually.
Yeah.
I just saw a post of this. This is a while back, I think. But you made a post about your schedule was so stacked with, you know, all your clientele, and you had like a little bit of window in the day. And from what you were, you know, connecting with the podcast host, you said it wouldn't have amount of money to basically fill that time because I needed to work on me, because if I didn't work on me, ultimately I'm not leading by example. I'm not going to be authentic.
I'm my own, and that's where I was going. I'm my own. I am my most important client is me. It sounds ridiculous. You're like, what do you mean? Like, I never understood trainers that are not healthy or they're not in shape or they're not training regularly. I would never have been able to get to where I get. There's a reason why I'm training the people I work with, because they look at me and they're like, oh,
because you show up, you look at.
They
you look
show
at
up
the
and
bar.
they're aspiring to have my discipline.
Yeah,
that's the one thing I could say that I have. That's pretty tough to compete with. Yeah, I mean, it's just a very simple. You know, this is what I do, and follow me. And but for me to do that, I have to carve time aside. So if it's me carving an hour and a half out or 2 hours out and not booking anything there and having to move an appointment or take a call another day, there are emergencies that might pop up. But if I think there is a chance I am not going to be able to get something in, I'm going to go at a time where there's no conflict. Mm-hmm. So if my flight today was supposed to get in at noon, that would have scared me. But I knew with it getting in at, you know, because if it was supposed to get in at 12:30, then if the flight's an hour or two late, I couldn't have gotten in. Then what I would have done is I would have had to go tonight, which I don't want to do. So I would have went at like 3 a.m, right? So like I remove any chance for me not to be able to do it. And people look at me and they're like, you're just take a day off. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I could, but I don't want to.
That's what we're going to do.
I don't want to.
We're going to lead by example.
Well, it's like I'm not taking a day off from brushing my teeth.
Yeah.
I'm not taking a day off from showering. I shower every day, multiple times.
Yeah.
Like I just, there's things that are going to be part of my lifestyle. This is part of my lifestyle. My body might even look better. I might move better. I mean, I might be in better shape if I took more time off. I might. I don't want to right now. I haven't wanted to for the last 30 years. It's like, whatever. It is what it is. It's who I am. It's how I'm made. It's what makes us tick.
Hell yeah, man.
It gives me an edge on everyone else also. You know?
Inspired, man. Inspired.
Thank you.
All right, last 2 questions to wind this down. Someone's watching this, listening to this, inspired, knowing that, you know, it's time for them to make a change. They're on the brink of doing something different, launching a business, launching a Fit Body Bootcamp, you know, exploring a passion, whatever the case may be. But there's that inner critic, that voice, that self-doubt. What do you say to that person?
Well, I think you said the word all in, right? Like, and I love that word. Like, if you're going to go all in, my buddy is a basketball player named Wally Serbiak. Played for the Minnesota Timberwolves. He was in my wedding party. I've known him since I'm in kindergarten. We won a state championship together. I'm going here for one reason.
That's awesome.
In high school, I remember turning to him on several Friday nights and being like, hey, we're going to go to so-and-so's and have a few beers and hang out. And he was like, no, he's like, I'm going with my dad to St. Mary's. And I knew what St. Mary's was. It was pickup basketball games on Friday night. So he never partied. His father was in the, I think, NBA, the ABA. He was like the Michael Jordan of Spain, Big Walt. But Big Walt would bring Wally down to St. Mary's High School when he was 12, 13, 14 years old to play against guys like John Starks and Chris Mullin. So Wally's at a young age playing, and there's a reason why Wally went 6th pick first round.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and then
success leaves clues, my friends.
Right. So you want to be great at something, stop comparing yourself to what your friends are doing. Stop trying to justify, well, they're doing this. Well, for a 47-year-old, well, for a 55-year-old, I'm better than most. You want to think that way, think that way. You want to be a monster, whether it's business, whether it's your physique, whether it's your health, you got to live differently. You got to live at this level that's exceptional. Okay, and you got to start blocking out a lot of the noise.
Yes.
And if there's some negative thought in there, I'm not going to tell you I never doubted myself. Like, I'm not going to tell you I didn't have nights where I'm going home and I'm laying in bed holding my dog going, holy shit, I just almost missed 37 consecutive payrolls. Like, imagine 37 consecutive payrolls. That was the number, 37 consecutive payrolls. Every night I went to bed not knowing if I could pay my staff the next day. So imagine going through that. Like, that's like, at a certain point, you're like, fuck, man, come on, make this easier. Is it supposed to be this hard? Like, is it supposed to be this hard? And it's like, it doesn't always have to be, but it also, like, if you can get through those battle wounds, like, I think you're going to come out a better person. You're going to come out stronger, and you're going to really appreciate and respect the good times. You're going to appreciate and respect, situations where I'm driving to hockey in the morning when I play a few mornings a week, and I'm playing in an outdoor rink with like 20 of my really good friends, and we have competitive games a few days a week, and I'm driving there and I'm drinking my coffee and I'm listening to music, and I'm like, honestly, like, I will literally turn around and just be like, thank you. I will literally say that. I will just like that. I will have my coffee in my hand. I'm driving my truck, and my music's playing. I'm thinking of my 3 dogs sleeping, my 2 kids, and my wife in bed sleeping. And I just go, thank you. Because I'm so fucking pumped and psyched to be doing what I'm doing right now. Man. And I know there's room.
Yeah.
And that's what inspires me. It's like, man, can it get better? I want it to get better. I hope this isn't it. I don't want there to be a decline. I want to get better. Yeah, and you want to get better.
Yeah.
Like, so let's keep getting better. Yeah. I want more of those moments, but those are good moments.
Last question. The name of this podcast is The Fitness CEO, the Chief Executive Officer. Don, you are certainly a CEO in your business, in your life. What does it mean to be a CEO to you?
I'll tell you what it doesn't mean. I don't think you have to be an asshole. I don't think you have to be, excuse my language, guys, I don't think you have to be a prick. I think you could be fair. I think you have to, understand that there's business, and I understand that now. When I originally got into business, it's like you're becoming so friendly with everyone, and then it's kind of difficult to draw that line. Mm-hmm. So I think it's knowing those barriers also. Like, all right, guys, like, I'm gonna head home, and are you fine? But I think there's a fair way to go about leading by example and getting your point across. I don't think you have to sit here and be this, maniac that's screaming. That was one thing that I learned. That was a tough lesson for me early on, because again, coming from a very Italian family, very passionate. Get me in the office, they'd be yelling at me.
Hard work and
meetings, group of people, back in the 80s and 90s, screaming, yelling. I got to the city. I learned pretty quickly you can't do that. Right? I got put in check.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't have to. Okay, let's. We got to be a little bit more strategic on how we're.
People aren't responding to that.
Right, they're not responding. So I think a CEO, it's not about being the person at the front of the table who's like, I'm the boss. I would never even introduce my employees as my employees. I would just say that we work together.
Yeah, 100%.
I just like
100%.
that. Right? I wanted everyone to just feel. We knew who was signing the checks. I didn't have to go in there with this ego boost, right? But
that's great leadership, brother.
Yeah, leadership. But I think it's like it's sitting down and it's knowing, like, no, this is the line, and this needs to be drawn, and we got to keep our eye on the prize, and we got to make adjustments. And it's difficult. Laying people off that you care about is a difficult thing to do. But you got a lot of times you got to do what's right for the business, and there are plenty of times where I didn't, and I kept people on, and I don't regret that, because I help people out in tough situations. But like, if you did that for everyone, you're not gonna have a business. Yeah. Because you need people to be able to execute what they need to execute for you to keep those doors open.
Amen. Now, man, this has been freaking awesome. Before we wrap today, in the case that someone's inspired like I am, and they're like, man, I gotta follow this guy, I wanna connect with this guy, where can they find you?
DonSaladino.com, or my Instagram, Don Saladino. Well,
easy.
If you guys have any questions, DM, feel free. Me and this guy are going to be friendly. He's coming out to the barn. We're going to get a good workout.
Heck yeah. I appreciate that. Well, on that note, my friends, I know you got a ton of value, but I just wanted to, before we shoot this episode, I just want to acknowledge you, man, not only for being here, for making the time, but for who you are as a guy, for how you show up, your intention, your passion, your confidence, your humility. I'm inspired, man. And I know a lot of other audience have been inspired as well. So I just want to thank you, not only for being the show, but for being the guy who you are.
Awesome. Well, so good. It's so great to have this time to connect with you, man.
Hell yeah.
Really psyched about that. I know we're going to continue this a lot more.
I hope so.
When you come to New York, you're on my podcast. I want to talk about your business. I want to talk about your mindset piece. I want you to get a workout with me at the barn. We'll do some recovery. I'll buy you lunch. We'll have a good time. Let me know when you want to do that.
Let's go. I appreciate that.
Can we get a pick?
Yeah, before we do, let's go ahead and wrap this freaking episode right now. Yeah. Friends, I know you got a ton of value. My ask for you is like this video, share this with your friend. That way we can keep producing awesome content for you. Don, appreciate you, my brother. And as I always say, remember that no one is coming to save you. You must save yourself, and the time is now. Don, appreciate you guys. See you in the next episode.